Hi, it's Ionic Burns here. In September, I participated in a challenge organized by the Kerbal Space Challenge Association, the Kartemis mission. Instead of displaying my proposal, which was actually not bad at all, I decided to make a kind of corrected copy based on the best ideas shown by the candidates. But before getting to the point, let me introduce what this contest was about. The mission which had to be done is actually very simple. It's a round trip from the KC to the surface of the Moon. 3 Kerbals have to land near to a monolith. Only one ship takes off from the KC. Only one ship can return from the Moon's SOI. Within Kerbin's SOI, all Kerbals must be located in living compartments. No hack, such as crack and drive, is allowed. Reasonable part clipping is asked. Very important, only stock parts are allowed. Even parts from making history and breaking grounds are forbidden. Kerbal engineering redux is tolerated, and beyond this one, the only mods allowed are for graphic improvements of the game, such as restock. I personally used Texture Unlimited Recolor Depot to provide a metallic skin to my ship. Players can compete in one of the 2 following categories: the craft with the lowest mass wins, and I decided to compete for this one, or the craft with the lowest cost wins. The locations of the monoliths are provided. Obviously, the easiest to land on is the nearest of the equator because it ensures the lowest quantity of DeltaV to be provided for such a trip. If you don't know where the monoliths are, you can find their locations in 2 steps. First, convert the GPS coordinates in a decimal format. Then, take a look at Kerbal maps to check where this location is on the Moon. The presentation of this contest is now finished. Let's move on to the model answer. This proposal is obviously the best of all provided. It is 114 kilograms and almost 2% lighter than the craft which won the prize. The shape is the simplest. It looks like a warhead. The first stage is mostly composed of a rapier engine and an inline intake which also provides a bit of liquid fuel. No L1 is required here because the gimbal capacity of the engine will be enough to provide control authority. With only 3 parts exposed in the atmosphere, the drag is minimal to maximize the efficiency of every drop of liquid fuel. Inside the fairing, we can see that the first stage is actually divided in 2 sections. 2 donuts and 1 Mk0 fuel tanks complete the inline intake to provide the necessary fuel. In the middle of this craft is the second stage, or vessel. It is also divided in 2 sections. The living compartments are above. The moonlander is at the bottom, as well as the engine and all the parts involved in providing electrical power. As you can see, to lower the mass of the craft as much as possible, ionic propulsion has been chosen. 6 solar panels are enough to provide electricity, and 3 batteries can help a little with an inconsistent solar load factor. However, note that the best sunlight of the solar panels will be obtained when the sun is behind or in front of our vessel. Knowing this, you will have a better understanding of when and where the maneuvers are planned. Last, due to the very low thrust provided by the Dawn engine, the translunar injection maneuver will have to be splitted in 7 different burns. And here it is, ready for takeoff. Almost everything has been said about this model, but I'll save a few surprises for later. The rapier engine takes a while before the overall thrust-to-weight ratio becomes greater than 1. When the speed reaches 35 meters per second, I tilt the craft by 5 degrees. When at 80 meters per second, I switch the SAS to prograde. As you can imagine, finding these values took many tries and caused almost as many failures. Quantity of liquid fuel and oxidizer have been fine-tuned so that there is exactly a 9:4:11 ratio when the Rapier switches to closed cycle. At this moment of the flight, you can notice we will reach space, but orbit is far from being achieved. However, we don't wait until we are in space before delivering our payload. I do this at 60 km of altitude to start the ionic propulsion as soon as possible, but not too soon because the drag would lower the apoapsis too much. Apoapsis is reached, I switch the SAS to Stably Assist. We then have just to wait for the periapsis to be above the atmosphere. A 70 per 125 km orbit has been reached. We circularize to get a nice circular parking orbit. As previously told, to ensure the best possible power management, we want the ship to face the sun or turn its back. Well, I pretend for a while that a single maneuver will be done. I plot my node and find out the departure will occur in 4 days and 4 hours. At this time, I need to take note of the following information: the altitude of the circular orbit, the number of xenon units remaining in my tanks, and the date of the departure. I pause the game and I switch to my spreadsheet. I update the values for the apoapsis, the periapsis, and the remaining xenon units. The big array updates. For each acceleration, I can adjust the time spent, thus the resulting DeltaV for each one. The purpose is to get the final apoapsis value to be the closest of the Kerbal moon distance. When the figures are okay to us, I adjust the time of the departure. The spreadsheet automatically calculates all the intermediate orbits periods, and this duration is subtracted to the date I want to depart. It gives the time I should perform my first maneuver. Now I have all the necessary information to plan my journey. I can replace the pretending TLI maneuver I plotted in the game by a new one at the same location in low Kerbal orbit. When this first maneuver is completed, I will then plan all the remaining burns respectfully to the periapsis of the resulting orbits and with the quantities of DeltaV provided by the spreadsheet. So I execute all the necessary maneuvers to perform the translunar injection. At mid-course, I make a little correction to increase the inclination and move the orbit so that the landing site has better sunlight when I reach this position. Nothing fancy for this circularizing maneuver, which is done in only one burn. prepare the landing, we have a few actions to do. First, we ensure the xenon tank of the lander is full. Then we EVA all Kerbals one by one to take place in the external seats. And as the path of our vessel does not pass over the landing site, so we wait for a few orbits. We decouple, adjust our trajectory a little bit, and here we go. And we have touched down. Kerbals and the monolith can be seen in the same picture, so we validated this part of the mission. There is nothing more to do here. We go back to orbit. The ascent is not optimal, but well, The most important thing here is we can pitch enough to face the Sun to ensure a good illumination of our solar panels. We now have made the rendezvous with our ship. One of the most interesting parts of the mission begins. First, we get closer to the hatch, so that pilot could take place on board the vessel. Valentina can now control its orientation with the reaction wheel and some electrical power left. We now adjust the position of both crafts so that our engineer could grab the ladder of the lander can. Bill is now in position and we quickly switch to the construction mode. We have little time before the lander moves away. The purpose of this operation is to disassemble some of the lander parts and reassemble them on the vessel. We do that for the solar panels, the batteries, the engine and the xenon tank. Regardless of whether it is done correctly or not, the most important thing is to place them on the vessel at first. Then, we take our time to reorganize them while Jebedia slowly drifts away. When done, Bill goes inside the vessel, and we put Valentina back in the pod to command it. I messed up the recordings at this point. The remaining xenon coming from the lander has been transferred to another tank, and the useless tank has been removed from the vessel. In the end, what we don't keep from the lander are the external seats, a cubic strut, the reaction wheel and the empty xenon tank. A total of 200 kilograms are left in Low Mun Orbit. Well, the last thing to do is to pick up Jeb. All Mun operations are now over, we just have to go back to Kerbal. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe, like and share. Take care and don't forget to test is stopped.